hush. I hear that hush of anticipation. I think there's some excitement in this crowd tonight. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Adam Johnson. I'm head of public programs here at the Nelson-Atkins Museum of Art. Welcome tonight. I've been so excited about this author's reading and event for a really long time. Not only because the book you will hear more from, Girl in Reverse, has very close connections with this museum, but most importantly because its author, Barbara Stuber, has really important connections to this museum. Barbara gave me the liberty of reading the first line in her author's note at the back. And I quote, "Although Girl in Reverse is a work of fiction, the Nelson-Atkins Museum of Art in Kansas City is real." It really, really warms my heart to know not only that the museum makes such an important appearance in this work, but that the work itself really centers around the power of art to find personal meaning. And as someone in the education department here at the Museum of Art, that is something we strive for on a daily basis with all of our audiences here at the museum. Barbara Stuber, for those of you who don't know, is a docent here. As part of education, that's one of her goals as well, to create meaning in all of our visitors with the works of art. And it's that core that I think brings something so special to this story, to this institution, to Kansas City. So it gives me incredible pleasure to welcome tonight's author for a reading of this book. And just a couple of notes of housekeeping. There are more copies available immediately after the event, and Barbara is so kind as to sign copies after the event as well, so please take advantage of it. The book itself is a delight. Please join me in welcoming the author, Barbara Stuber.
I have sat out there hundreds of times. I have never seen the room from this point of view. So, something to get used to. Thank you, everybody, for coming. My gosh, it's overwhelming. And if I try to thank my family and friends and all, I will start crying. So I am not going to do that. I'm just simply not going to start the evening by crying. But Adam, thank you so much. Without him, this event would not have happened tonight. And also Katerina Muller, John and Ray in the museum shop. They're the book guys. Kathleen Lighton, Helen Meyer, Marla Allen, and a host of other people at the museum. Plus this whole institution. Can't you just feel the muses of all collected here tonight for us together? Okay. In the spirit of tonight, we are going to start by going in reverse about 80 years to this very stage. This is the early 1930s, and that gal is one of the first docents. Doesn't she look efficient and good at her job? Okay, and you guys are an audience of sixth graders who have come to the museum, and you are watching the demonstration of how to paint a still life painting, maybe become a Cézanne, right? So it looked to me like a miniature bunch of grapes, some very tiny apples, a bottle of wine. And don't miss the artist wearing his duster/bathrobe, okay, to create a still life painting. Now, I don't know those of you sitting at the back of the room how clear this is, but imagine being a sixth grader and coming and having to behave and looking at this, which would have happened just right there. It's probably the same curtains. Adam commented, these are probably the same curtains even. Okay, so your visit here as a sixth grader would have started with a demonstration in this room, how to paint something the kids sat at. And you would have arrived here on the streetcar. You'd come with your school. It was the Depression years, around 1933, and it would have cost a nickel. A lot of kids couldn't afford that nickel, or parents, so the teachers were stuffing nickels in the hands of the students to get on the streetcar and stop at the Nelson-Atkins. And William Rockhill Nelson insisted that there be a streetcar stop here because his Rock Hill development needed access. So the streetcar came right here to the museum. From here, we would have all moved to Kirkwood Hall. Okay. Couple of things to note. Number one, there are 2 zillion sixth graders and 1 docent wearing a toga. What could she be saying that is keeping the rapt attention of that group? Us docents would love to know that. They are not sklathing around on the floor on their stomachs. They're not messing with each other's hair. They're actually appearing to be listening. As a writer, I'm always thinking, what's going to happen next? And as docents, we often ask kids that when they're looking at a painting or artwork. What do you think's going to happen next if this was a movie, all right? So they're either going to go in their nice, neat rows with their teacher, or it's going to be bedlam, and the noise level would probably pierce the skylight glass in the middle of Kirkwood Hall. So auspicious beginnings to a docent program 80 years ago. And I have been the beneficiary of that role for 25 years. Another auspicious, in quotes, auspicious beginning of a writing career. This is my first book, whoops, not novel. Barbara Coleman and Barbara Beeson, I'm the Barbara Beeson. New word, dictionary. Okay, I'm still a terrible speller, still. This was a group of nonsense words that my girlfriend and I made up in the 4th grade, so we were slightly younger than the kids that were on the floor that in our last slide. We thought we were hilarious. We thought we had the world by the tail. So this is the first book. Many times as a docent, we are asked how much a work of art is worth. How much did that one cost? How much did that one cost, right? So we always say that they are priceless. This particular work of art is priceless on the other end of the spectrum. A museum is a home for the muses, right? Museum. And many writers have been inspired by the Nelson. There are some in the audience tonight, poets, novelists, students writing their work. A murder mystery writer was inspired by the canopy bed up in the Chinese gallery. And those of you who might take one of these novel art tours at the end of the evening, you'll see this bed up there. It's very cool. She put a dead body in it, in her mind, and moved the bed to a fictitious museum in Massachusetts. So even that novel did not take place in the Nelson. I think maybe Girl in Reverse is the first one to do that. So that's kind of a cool thing for me. But when you get up there, if you do look in that bed, check for a dead body, number one. I don't think there's one. And I thought, in trying to think of a story to write, I couldn't do the dead body in the bed because that has already been done. So I had to think of something else. Okay. Muses are sneaky, and they work on us, especially if you spend a bunch of time in a place that's a home for muses. Here are 3 of mine. This little cute guy. Okay, he lives up in the Native American galleries. And the title of this is Kosha appreciating anything, okay? He's a little bit of a spirit guy. I'm saying he, but honestly, there's no real evidence to know what gender this particular sprite is, spirit. But anyway, he's got horns, so we know he is out of this world. He also has a navel, so he is of this world. And no kidding, when you get an idea up and out of the blue, when something comes to you and you don't know where it came from, he might have something to do with it. But it's this idea, anything is possible. That's what the sculpture is about. Look at this. Look what I can create. Look what's possible. And where is that inspiration coming from? I still have no idea. Okay. Number 2, muse. Ooh. Hello. She's saying hello. Okay. This little gal is from Iraq, where Kosha was about 17 years old. She is 5,000 years old. And she has not blinked once. Her eyes are always open, right? Keep your eyes open. Don't miss anything. Don't miss anything. And so even without a body, she seemed to be doing okay in the not letting anything, no matter how small, get past her attention. We were told as docents that people back in the day, 5,000 years ago, would purchase a little character like this, a little doll, and wouldn't have been called a doll, but they would put them in the temple so that they could pray for that person all the time, because you were supposed to pray to the gods all the time. But if you had a regular life to lead, and like maybe you had to cook dinner and sleep, whatever, you could put a little doll like this in the temple and she would pray for you all the time, okay? So that also says to me, ideas can come any old time, right? In the shower, in the middle of the night. And there are a lot of creative people in the audience who I'm sure have their own stories to tell about how they have been hit by the creativity bug. My third muse worked her way right into my first novel. This is, long title, get comfortable. This is Iris carrying the water of the river Styx to Olympus for the gods to swear by. All right. The artist is Guy Head. Okay. The river Styx is the boundary between the land of the living and the land of the dead, right? And so our messenger goddess, Iris, carries messages from the dead to the living, and I like to think from the living back to the dead. She swings both ways, okay? She became, let's see. I stole her off the wall, the painting off the wall in my mind. I put clothes on her. I mixed her up with my mother, our grandmother, okay? And I planted her on the ground. My mother, number one, would never have worn an outfit like this, so I had to do something. Okay, so that's taking the character that's floating in your mind, this idea you have floating in your mind, and you put it right down onto the ground, right? That's what you have to do. You have to give a character a personality and a pulse and a predicament. That's the plot, right? So this painting, the name of this is Hannah by George Fuller. But in my mind, this was my main character of my first book in terms of how she felt after her mother had died when she was 6 and her father had shipped her off to a unknown place in rural Missouri to work as a housekeeper for a rural country physician and to take care of his deathbed mother. Okay. So that is her joy at this proposition. But it's crazy thing looking at a painting like this. I kept thinking, well, that's Iris. But then when you look at the face, though, and that white collar, all of a sudden, some of her strength and resolve starts to shine through, and you think, wait just a minute. You know, she's just not going to get bowled over. She's got some fire in her. And that's what the story's about, right? So I got a predicament, and then I got to figure out how to get the fire showing in her. After a harrowing ride that Iris takes from the train station to the farmhouse where she is going to go to work, she doesn't get anybody aroused when she knocks on the door. Okay. So I'm going to read a tiny bit out of this book, which is my first novel, to give you a taste of another way art can sneak and weasel its way into a novel, almost when you as the author don't know you're doing it. So we'll look at this a minute. Okay. This is Mrs. Cecil Wade by John Singer Sargent. Okay. All right, Iris has arrived at the farm. She's knocked on the door. Nothing. And she keeps thinking, well, if the old lady I'm supposed to take care of is dead, I can go home. Nice. Okay. I grip my handbag and creep down the dark hall, clear my throat and whisper, I'm here. Iris Baldwin has arrived. I listen for a gasp or a whimper. Nothing. I step through the open door. I have absolutely no idea what to do, so I sit on the edge of the divan and stare into the painted black eyes of two figurines facing me from their little wall sconce. Their bored expressions ask, why are you here? Stale wood smoke gusts down the chimney. A slice of late afternoon sun appears on the floor across the room. Behind it is a partially open door and another room cast in deep shadow. The pool of sunlight swims as if the wind has blown it onto the rug. I stare at the spot, a glowing puddle of melted sun. Blown grit ticks the windows. I hear a slight shuffle, a tap. My scalp tingles, and out of nowhere, a slipper and the tip of a cane appear in the light. My hands fly up. I look at the owner of the feet. Miss Baldwin, says a tiny old woman. Okay, that's not Iris, right? That's more one of those porcelain figurines. But that puddle of sun slid right out of the painting and into the book. So in that case, I stole the setting, stole the artwork and put it in the setting in the book. Whoops, what did I do? Whoops. I just turned it off, I think. There, whoo. That would be bad. I wouldn't know what to do with myself. Okay, so here we have, there's crossing. Here we have two irises, right, doing the same thing. She's carrying messages across, dealing with death and becoming life, right? And so is Iris over there, carrying her whole life in her suitcase, everything that's happened to her, all her pain, her loss, her heavy heart, and she is crossing her version of the river Styx right there on the cover of the book. One character from Crossing the Tracks, this is a little marketing, shouldn't say it, but I will. One character from Crossing the Tracks shows up in my next book, and you will only know that if you read both of them. So there you go. We will leave Iris and meet Lily. Okay, there she is. I love this photograph. You know, I didn't take it. I don't know this character. She's the person the art department at Simon & Schuster found to to model for the front, okay? I think she's a beautiful girl. So we open with Lily Firestone, not Iris, but they both have flower names, sitting not in a strange farmhouse, but in social studies. Picture Southwest High School, about 1951, okay? The height of the Korean War. All right, and I was supposed to do a reading tonight, so I am going to do now reading a few pages of the first chapter of Girl in Reverse. Hopefully this will give you a sense of what this Lily Firestone is up against. January 1951. I hold my face as if it has been dipped in plastic, slide down in my seat, and stare at the doodle, a tornado-shaped ink spiral gouged in the desktop. 5 rows ahead, Neil Bradford faces our class in his ROTC uniform. He holds out a cartoon taped to red construction paper that he has brought for current events. Oh, darn, I did it again there. His eyes glitter. See? It's an army tank stuffed with Chinese commies about to crush all these kids in the crosswalk. Each of the kids, and I do realize, aside, there are not a bunch of kids in the crosswalk. I made a bunch of kids in the crosswalk in my mind. Okay. Each of the kids wears a name tag of a country in the United Nations. His lips curl, his gaze skims our class. Don't be fooled, folks. They're out to get us. The Chinese soldiers in the tank are fiends with crossed eyes and nasty buck-tooth grins. They aim their bloody bayonets and machine guns at the poor, helpless United Nations. He slices me with a glance, pats his chest. My brother is in Korea right now, fighting the Red Chinese. Neil's voice gets pushy. The evil empire is attacking our boys this very minute. Their next target? The U.S. of A. Neil pivots and salutes the flag. Kids whoop and applaud. He starts the cartoon around the room. I tuck my hair behind my ears, remembering last Friday's current events cartoon. It showed a Chinaman's mask over the muzzle of a crazed razor-toothed bear, the global symbol of communism. I glance at Neil's cartoon when it is handed to me, but when I try to pass it to the guy beside me, his hand yanks back. He holds it suspended in midair. He bucks his teeth at me, crosses his eyes, and fake coughs, "Commie." Neil covers his mouth as if suppressing his own commie cough. Another comrade of Neil's sneezes, "Chink." Somebody snickers. The air sizzles, all eyes on me. Commie, chink. My hands fly to my cheeks. My insides buzz. The cartoon falls on the floor with the machine guns faced right up at me. I glower at Miss Arth, seated at her desk. God, do something. But she doesn't. No, Miss Arth is preoccupied with her ear. She grimaces, pulls off a tight earring, and massages her fleshy earlobe. The fat gold glob wobbles on her desktop. 2 rows up, Patty Kittle turns to me with an expression full of pity. "Sorry, Lily." I look from one to the other of my classmates. Even the nice kids stare right past me out the window. "But," I speak, "but..." The communist is contagious guy beside me swivels in his seat, jiggles his hands up and down, silently mimicking, but, what? Neil stuffs his hands in his pocket, smug as can be. Miss Arth removes her other earring. She runs her finger down her grade book, announces the next student's turn, and boom, the attack is over. I sit back, slapped, trapped. My hands and face tingle. The next thing I know, right in the middle of 5th hour, I am standing on Neil's cartoon, grabbing my books. The janitor, on a stepladder at the back of the room, catches my eye. He salutes me with a light bulb raised in his fist. Neil hops back as if giving the enemy a wide berth as I square my shoulders and step around him, out the door and into the empty hall. I yank my coat from my locker. The school secretary tracks me walking past the front office window. I bump the building door open, run down the front steps, through the crosswalk and up the street. Lily Firestone, unhooked from the world. You did it. You did it. For once, you did the right thing. The rhythm of the words propels me for blocks through Southmoreland Park and across the lawn of the Art Museum. I sit on a stone wall, clutching my books. It's spitting snow and windy. Cold seeps through my coat. But I feel a little fire in me, a right and true flame. I unload my books, pull my knees up, remembering a different rhythm, a jump rope chant from grade school. Jap monkey girl, Jap monkey girl. Kids chanted it during recess after Pearl Harbor was bombed. I didn't know if I was a Jap or not. I didn't know what I was. I thought it was supposed to be funny. I hopped and scratched like an ape until something shifted inside and I realized I was the joke. Easy as pie, without trying, I've changed from being a monkey to a commie. Wars come in all sizes, whole world, playground, classroom, even inside your own skin. My mittens are fists. I wipe my eyes, furious that I didn't protect myself way back then. I should have stood up. I should have fought back, but I didn't. I didn't know how. And now I'm still just me, still trying to ignore it. Until today. I rock side to side, hot tears on my face, recalling still another rhyme, the cadence of my first mother's steps and how her hair swayed when she carried me around the puddles and scary dogs and steamy gutters filled with the trash of Chinatown. If we ever get lost from each other, Lily, look for my bright pink sweater. You can always find me. She was Mama, my birth mother, who sailed here from China and delivered me in California before the Iron Curtain and the Bamboo Curtain divided the world. After 3 years, she put us on a train to Kansas City, pried my arms from around her neck, lowered me to the floor of the Mercy Children's Home, and walked out. Mama disappeared and became gone mom. But today, she has walked right back inside me, right where I don't want her. I'm here, where you left me, Mama, a truant Chinese speck in the middle of America. I blot my eyes on my coat sleeve. Squirrels chase around the oak trees, scramble through piles of dead leaves. I look up and shiver. I am not alone. Across the sidewalk, in front of me sits a huge, naked man. He's on a tall, blocky pedestal with one fist clenched under his chin and a squirrel on his knee. I bend over and squint at the engraving on the smooth stone base below him, the thinker, Rodin. His face looks worried. I circle him, study the curves of his backside, his biceps and massive bare back. He's weathered gray-green metal with rain streaks down his sides and between his thighs and his fingers. His whole body is clenched. He looks like he has muscles in his brain. Behind him is the Nelson-Atkins Museum of Art with its rows of columns and steps. I watch a shadow slide slowly across the thinker's jaw and down his chest. It's getting late. I rub his frigid toe. So, I say, I gotta go now. Where to? Home? Or someplace else? No reply. Snow gathers on his eyebrows and the crests of his ears. I guess the thinker is like me today, lots of problems and no answers. Okay. Lily's predicament, okay? Fear, prejudice, and lies have shrunk Lily Firestone, trapped her in an impossible present, a threatened future, and a past that she discovers is a lie. For Lily, war is everywhere if you look like the enemy. And although this sculpture in our Abstract Expressionist Gallery, this is a sculpture by Alberto Giacometti. It's called Chariot. And this is Lily's predicament. In this shrunken figure, elongated but shrunken figure, is on a chariot on a vehicle that cannot move. It's all welded together, and she's welded to it. Stuck. So sometimes an artwork can evoke a feeling for a character, right? Without it being that character. And that's what this chariot did for me. War is everywhere if you look like the enemy, right? But that was Lily up until today, right? When she walked out, the day that is different. Over and over, we writers here, start your novel on the day that's different, okay? And that walking out was it. Okay, where can a lonely, bullied, rice-faced girl go to stretch her thinking, get untrapped from her predicament? Here, right here, where she encounters not the evil Chinese enemy, but the genius and sublime beauty of her thousands-year-old culture. Museums express our universal human concerns. They are without boundaries, cultural boundaries. The subjects transcend stereotypes, and boy, does she need that. I'm going to share a few slides that are not things, if you walk around the museum tonight on a novel art tour, that you can see because they're not the same anymore. But this is the 1949 vintage photo of the Chinese temple gallery that Lily walks into. For you potential readers, you want to make a note of what's hanging from the ceiling and the Bodhisattva Guanyin down at the end of the room. And there it is, as it looks today. You'll be able to walk up and actually see this one if you want to. Okay. It's carved from one piece of wood, which is a miracle, except that right forearm and hand that was added. But in the story, I dismembered it. Okay. It's all in pieces. So that's another thing you can do to artworks in a book. You can destroy them and hope that they're going to come back together. Okay. I embellished the way it was really found. Okay. And I scattered those pieces all over. A word on our Chinese collection. Some of you are very familiar with it, and I know others aren't. So I'm just going to say a very few words about it. As many of you know, two former directors at the Nelson-Atkins, Paul Gardner and Lawrence Sickman, were monuments men. Earlier in the 1930s, before that role, Lawrence Sickman, a cum laude Harvard graduate in Asian Studies, the only program in Asian Studies in the U.S. at the time, traveled to China at the age of 25 to do a joint fellowship between Harvard and the Yenching University in Beijing. His studies were apparently not so demanding that he could not wander for weeks at a time northern China. which he did. Eventually, he was commissioned to buy art for the Nelson-Atkins, and at its inception, way back, even before the museum opened, instructed by J.C. Nichols, he was told to buy big pieces. We had a lot of empty space in here at the time. Okay. The New York Times called Sickman's accumulation of Chinese art one of the finest single curatorial achievements in museum history. Our Asian collection is one of the top in the world. Sickman eventually became the Nelson Museum director, followed by Mark Wilson, and now our Chinese collection is in the able hands of curator Colin McKenzie. So there's, we looked at that. Here's one other place you can't see now, but I found a photo. This is a scholar's studio. And there is a particular stick in the book that has meaning. And if you were Lily and you came in and looked in this scholar's studio, that stick of wood would be sitting on this very table. All right, so when you read it, now you can know where that table was and what it looked like. Okay. So who are the muses then that carry Lily through? We've already seen this one that maybe could have if it could speak, might say, giddy up, get going, get off this, okay? And here's another, and this is a bit more of a stretch. This artwork is also not on display. This is called Subway Preacher by Alison Czar. I turned this subway preacher into a Catholic nun. In the story, Lily and Sister Evangeline, who took a special interest in her when she lived in the orphanage before being adopted, are standing, you have to imagine this, inside a dark, overgrown shed on the orphanage grounds. Evangeline has called Lily there, and anticipation is in the air. Lily has no idea why the nun asked her to meet her there. A short quote from page 101. I glance up at Sister Evangeline. She holds my gaze a long moment, blinking away tears. She stands so regal and tall, armored in her habit, the bulb spreading light over her. She raises 2 fingers in a blessing and says, John chapter 8, verse 32, know the whole truth, and the truth will make you free. The subway preacher also, like Sister Evangeline, has almost no earthly belongings. The subway preacher is wearing an armor made of ceiling tile tin. In fact, this whole sculpture is made of junk. Value of the medium, 0. Okay. He has an altar inside. You see it? The doors of his front come open. Inside are candles and a picture of a heart, a picture of Jesus. All the richness of him is inside him. All right? And what is he doing? But the same gesture. I stole it. I gave it to Sister Evangeline. And the tears in his eyes I put in her eyes. So she's standing under a single light bulb, and there he is doing that same thing. Again, evoking a mood or a character. That's the way an artwork can weasel its way into a book. Brian Eno, musician and visual artist, said this: stop thinking about artworks as objects and start thinking of them as triggers for experiences. We are going to do that for just the next couple of minutes. I'm going to share with you the stages of the way an artwork can help transform a viewer. Okay? This is Girl Before a Mirror. She is a one of the main characters in the story, she's also not in the Nelson-Atkins. She lives in the Museum of Modern Art in New York City. Art is ambiguous, open to interpretation, with feelings embedded in it, and Lily encounters the girl before a mirror in the art room at school. There's a poster of this and other great artists on the wall. Okay, so stages for absorbing and owning an artwork into your gut, heart, and soul. Okay, Lily's first look, when she first looks at this in the art room, her reaction is an immediate snap judgment, which is, it looks like two exploded clowns staring at each other. The clashing red and black diamonds and the green polka dots are hideous. Ugh, what's this thing? Okay, first glance. And we do that, you know, this is not my kind of thing. 40 pages later, Lily and Elliot are in the art room. And Elliot, a guy in the school, says to her, so getting back to Picasso, Picasso wants us to make our own sense of his painting. He starts and we finish it. What do you see, Lily? Well, the girl on the left's got two faces. The profile's white and the full face is yellow. One face split in two. If you let your eyes go blurry, they combine into one. Page 112, 20 pages later, the janitor says to Lily, so how's our girl in the mirror? The janitor asks, well, Lily says, you know, she's not just looking in the mirror, she's holding the mirror. You think she's reaching out for somebody, maybe her mother? Reaching out to her past, reaching into her reverse. Later, in referring to her birth mother, gone mom, Lily says, it is the woman reflected in Picasso's mirror I see when I picture her now. Empty inside, ghostly, shrunken from life, with a hard tear scarring her eye. She's not just gone from me, but also from the earth, sucked behind the mirror of time. But the girl is brave enough to reach out and still touch her. And finally, on page 224, this is Lily in her room, sitting at her vanity. On Saturday night, I sit at the vanity studying the girl before a mirror. The cleft in my chin, my jaw, etc. Take the painting and put it right into seeing her face, who she is. That's the magic, transformative power of a work of art. And you grow in your appreciation of art, your character development, and I just had Lily do that. I did that very thing with her. So Lily becomes her own monuments woman, her own cultural preservation officer. She rescues her own past, but when you dig into your past, it comes with a risk, because you could be messing with the past, the secrets of others. That's what stops people often. The original title for Girl in Reverse was Provenance. The value of an art object is affected by its provenance, its backstory. Who stole it, who gave it to his mistress, who messed with it, who cleaned it up, who ruined it, who got it back. All that adds to the story and the interest of an artwork, and often to its value, literally. In the same way, knowing her provenance creates Lily's sense of value of herself. The topic is very current. Provenance is a hot topic. Many people in our world cannot know their backstory, right? With sperm donations, international adoption, Chinese teenage girls in a current documentary called Somewhere Between. One girl in this film, it's unbelievably poignant, reveals her provenance, she shrugs and said, "Well, I know I was left in a blanket in a park under a tree." That's it. Another comments that they're having during it her 15th birthday party, and she goes, "I don't feel 15. I know I'm at least 17. I can't be just 15." But that's what the orphanage wrote on her. That's the birth date they gave her. Boom. So that's how old she is, even though she's not. Carlos Fuentes, one of the most admired writers in the world, said this: "Finished, the book begins. Also, finished, the artwork begins, because it goes into the heads and hopefully hearts of the people who either read it or look at it. We finish it, not the author finishes the book, but the reader finishes it inside themselves in the same way Lily did with The Girl Before a Mirror." So that's your job, everybody, whether it's looking at art or reading a book. Okay, I'm winding up. Just to say, there are some books for sale and signing or chatting available outside. The Roselle Court is delicious, and it's open tonight till 10-ish. That new glass labyrinth out in the sculpture park by Kansas City artist Robert Morris is available. Or you can do a, quote, novel art tour, which is it can be as short or as long as you want. It's a walk through the museum, and all of the objects that are here and on display that are in the book are on this card. It's like a self-guided art tour. Okay, but we do have 7, raise your hands or something, docents who are going to be, are you all around? Okay, these lovely humans who are going to be stationed at these artworks and would be happy to tell you just a few words about them if you would like to see them. And then when you read the book, you can go, "Oh yeah, I saw that, I know what she's talking about there." So I would hope you would choose to do that. So as you go out here, if you, one of the gals will be, Laura Crow, will be here to show you how to go up to the first artwork. It's a twice life-size, sweaty-looking lovers, mythical lovers, okay, naked. You can't miss it. If you do, there will be someone up there to stop you from doing that. Okay, my only regret about these lovely docents who are doing this for us tonight is that I did not insist that they wear togas. Thank you.